Chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will explain every failed attack you've witnessed, every collapsed scheme you've observed, every mysteriously derailed plot you've seen fall apart against all logic and probability. Because your enemies had a plan. Not a vague idea, not a loose strategy, not a casual intention, a detailed, calculated, meticulously crafted plan for your complete destruction. They coordinated their efforts. They synchronized their timing. They aligned their resources. They recruited their allies. They prepared their weapons. They positioned their pieces. Everything was ready. Everything was set. Everything was in place for your downfall, your defeat, your elimination from the picture entirely. But something happened that they still cannot explain, cannot understand, cannot comprehend. Their plan failed. Not partially, completely, not gradually, suddenly, not predictably, mysteriously. Every piece that should have fallen into place scattered instead. Every domino that should have triggered the next stopped dead. Every element that should have functioned perfectly malfunctioned catastrophically. Their carefully orchestrated scheme collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. Their precisely timed attack fell apart like it was opposed by forces they couldn't see, blocked by powers they couldn't perceive, dismantled by authorities they couldn't comprehend. Heaven blocked their plan, not you, not your effort, not your intelligence or strategy or preparation. Heaven intervened. Divine forces activated, supernatural powers engaged, cosmic authorities exercised their jurisdiction. And their plan, their carefully crafted, meticulously prepared, thoroughly coordinated plan didn't just fail. It was systematically dismantled by forces operating in dimensions they don't believe in, through mechanisms they don't understand, by authorities they don't acknowledge. And to this day, right now, in this very moment, they still don't know how their perfect plan failed so completely, so suddenly, so mysteriously. Tonight, you're going to understand exactly how heaven blocks plans against the chosen, why divine intervention operates in ways that leave enemies confused rather than enlightened, how supernatural protection works to dismantle schemes while keeping the mechanics hidden from those who plotted them. You're going to see why their confusion about their failure is actually evidence of heavenly intervention, why their inability to understand what went wrong is actually proof of divine blocking, why their continued bewilderment about how their plan collapsed is actually confirmation of supernatural dismantling. They don't know how their plan failed. They never will. Because heaven blocks plans in ways that transcend human comprehension, through methods that exceed earthly understanding, using mechanisms that operate beyond mortal perception. They're looking for natural explanations for supernatural intervention, seeking logical reasons for divine blocking, searching for rational causes for heavenly dismantling. They'll never find what they're looking for, because what happened to their plan wasn't natural. It was supernatural. It wasn't logical. It was divine. It wasn't rational. It was heavenly. And heaven doesn't explain its methods to those who attack its chosen, doesn't reveal its mechanisms to those who scheme against its protected, doesn't disclose its strategies to those who plot against its anointed. Let me take you back to when their plan was being formed, when their scheme was being crafted, when their plot was being designed. They didn't rush this. They didn't improvise. They didn't act impulsively. They took their time. They gathered information about you, studied your patterns, analyzed your weaknesses, identified your vulnerabilities. They observed your life, looking for openings, watching your routines, searching for opportunities, monitoring your movements, seeking for moments when you'd be most exposed, most vulnerable, most susceptible to their attack. They held meetings about you. Secret gatherings where your destruction was the agenda, your elimination was the goal. Your downfall was the desired outcome. They brainstormed strategies, debated tactics, refined approaches. They brought in others, recruited allies, enlisted accomplices. Some were motivated by jealousy of what you have, some by fear of what you represent, some by hatred of what you expose in them simply by being who you are. Whatever their individual motivations, they united around one common goal: your complete and total destruction. Their plan was comprehensive. They weren't aiming for minor inconvenience. They weren't plotting for temporary setback. They weren't scheming for manageable difficulty. They wanted your complete removal, your total elimination, your absolute destruction. They targeted every area of your life simultaneously. Your finances, so you'd be broke and desperate. Your relationships, so you'd be isolated and alone. Your reputation, so you'd be discredited and dismissed. Your health, so you'd be weak and vulnerable. Your peace, so you'd be anxious and unstable. Your purpose, so you'd be confused and directionless. The plan was elegant in its wickedness. Each element was designed to trigger the next. Financial stress would create relationship tension. Relationship problems would damage your reputation. Reputation damage would affect your career. Career difficulties would impact your health. Health problems would destroy your peace. Loss of peace would cloud your purpose. One domino falling would trigger the cascade that would bring down your entire life. That was their design. That was their strategy. That was their plan. And it was good, thorough, comprehensive, likely to succeed if executed properly, if left unopposed, if allowed to proceed. But they miscalculated one crucial factor. They didn't account for heaven. They didn't consider divine protection. They didn't factor in supernatural intervention. They planned as if you were unprotected, as if you were just another person they could destroy through cunning and coordination. They didn't recognize you're chosen, that you're covered, that you're protected by forces that don't require your awareness to function, by powers that don't need your permission to activate, by authorities that don't wait for your request to engage. When their plan began executing, heaven began blocking. Not all at once, piece by piece, element by element. They would implement one phase of their scheme. Heaven would dismantle it. They would proceed to the next stage of their plot. Heaven would neutralize it. They would advance to another component of their attack. Heaven would reverse it. Every step they took forward, heaven pushed them 2 steps back. Every move they made to harm you, heaven countered with protection. Every attack they launched against you, heaven intercepted before impact. At first, they attributed the failures to bad luck, coincidence, unfortunate timing. They recalibrated and tried again. Same result: failure. Mysterious, inexplicable, frustrating failure. They adjusted their approach and attempted once more. Same outcome: collapse. Sudden, unexpected, confusing collapse. They completely redesigned their strategy and launched yet another attack. Same ending: dismantling. Complete, thorough, devastating dismantling of their efforts. This pattern repeated so many times that even they began to wonder if something beyond bad luck was at work. But their worldview doesn't include divine intervention. Their belief system doesn't accommodate supernatural blocking. Their understanding of reality doesn't allow for heavenly dismantling. So they keep searching for natural explanations that don't exist, logical reasons that aren't there, rational causes that can't be found. Because the explanation is supernatural, the reason is divine, the cause is heavenly. And they're looking in the wrong dimension, searching in the wrong realm, seeking in the wrong plane of existence. Let me show you the specific mechanisms heaven uses to block plans against the chosen. Because understanding this will strengthen your faith, deepen your trust, solidify your confidence in protection that functions whether you see it or not, whether you understand it or not, whether you believe in it moment by moment or not. First, there's the mechanism of confusion. Heaven creates confusion among those plotting against you. Communication breakdowns where there should be clarity, misunderstandings where there should be alignment, conflicts where there should be cooperation. The people coordinating against you start fighting among themselves. Allies become adversaries, accomplices become opponents. Unity dissolves into discord, and in that discord, in that conflict, in that division, their plan falls apart from internal chaos rather than external opposition. They don't recognize this confusion as divine intervention. They attribute it to personality conflicts, to communication failures, to human error. But it's not human. It's heavenly. Heaven sows confusion among those who plot against the chosen, generates misunderstanding among those who scheme against the protected, creates division among those who coordinate against the anointed. You've seen this. Groups that came together to attack you have fractured. Relationships that united against you have dissolved. Alliances that formed to destroy you have collapsed. They're too busy fighting each other to effectively fight you. This isn't luck. This is heavenly confusion blocking their plan by turning their unity into chaos, their coordination into conflict, their alliance into animosity. Heaven doesn't always block plans by direct confrontation. Sometimes heaven blocks plans by internal corruption, by sowing confusion that destroys coordination from within. Second, there's the mechanism of exposure. Heaven exposes plans against the chosen at exactly the right moment to dismantle them before full execution. Secrets get revealed, hidden schemes get discovered, covert plots get uncovered. Not always to you directly, sometimes to others who have influence to stop what's being planned, authority to intervene in what's being coordinated, power to prevent what's being designed. Information that should have remained hidden gets leaked. Conversations that should have stayed private get overheard. Documents that should have been destroyed get discovered. Communications that should have been secure get intercepted. This exposure doesn't feel like divine intervention to those experiencing it. It feels like bad luck, like mistakes, like security failures. But it's not human failure. It's heavenly intervention. Heaven exposes what needs to be exposed at precisely the moment exposure will do maximum damage to the plot, create maximum disruption to the scheme, generate maximum prevention of the plan. You've seen this too. Things they planned in secret have been revealed. Schemes they thought were hidden have been exposed. Plots they believed were secure have been uncovered. And that exposure has derailed their plan, prevented their attack, stopped their scheme before it could fully manifest against you. This isn't coincidence. This is heavenly exposure blocking their plan by revealing what they tried to hide, uncovering what they attempted to conceal, exposing what they worked to keep secret. Third, there's the mechanism of redirection. Heaven redirects attacks aimed at you toward targets that won't accomplish the enemy's goals. The weapon is launched, but heaven shifts the target. The attack is executed, but heaven changes the destination. The scheme is implemented, but heaven alters the impact point. What should have hit you hits something else. What should have harmed you harms something irrelevant to their ultimate goal. What should have destroyed you destroys something that doesn't matter to your survival, your success, your continuation. They attack your finances. But heaven redirects so their attack only affects money that was leaving anyway, expenses that were temporary, resources that were already transitioning. They attack your relationships. But heaven redirects so their attack only reaches connections that were already ending, relationships that were already toxic, bonds that needed to break for your growth. They attack your reputation. But heaven redirects so their accusations only reach people whose opinions don't actually matter to your destiny, whose judgments don't actually affect your purpose, whose beliefs don't actually impact your calling. You've experienced this. Attacks that should have devastated you only caused minor inconvenience. Schemes that should have destroyed you only created temporary difficulty. Plots that should have ended you only generated passing challenges. This isn't because their plans were weak. This is because heaven redirected their strong plans away from fatal impact toward non-fatal interference. Heaven doesn't always stop attacks completely. Sometimes heaven allows attacks but redirects them to hit non-vital targets. to affect non-essential areas, to impact non-critical zones. Fourth, there's the mechanism of delay. Heaven delays implementation of plans against the chosen until the window of opportunity closes, until circumstances change, until you've moved beyond where they expected you to be. They plan to attack you at a specific moment when you'll be vulnerable. But heaven delays their attack until you're strong. They scheme to strike when you're isolated, but heaven delays their strike until you're supported. They plot to hit when you're unprepared, but heaven delays their hit until you're fortified. This delay feels like frustration to them. Nothing proceeds on schedule. Everything takes longer than planned. Every step encounters unexpected obstacles that consume time, that burn through their window of opportunity, that push their execution past the moment when their plan would have been effective. By the time they're finally ready to launch, you're no longer where they thought you'd be. You're no longer what they expected you to be. You're no longer who they planned to attack. You've moved, evolved, transformed, and their plan designed for who you were is ineffective against who you've become. You've noticed this. Attacks that finally come are surprisingly ineffective. Schemes that eventually launch barely affect you. Plots that ultimately execute don't harm you the way they would have if they'd succeeded earlier. This isn't because you got lucky. This is because heaven delayed their plan until you'd changed enough that their plan no longer fit. Until circumstances shifted enough that their strategy no longer worked. Until you'd evolved enough that their attack no longer landed with intended impact. Fifth, there's the mechanism of reversal. Heaven reverses plans against the chosen so that what was meant to harm you ends up helping you. What was designed to curse you becomes your blessing. What was intended to destroy you builds you instead. Their attack on your finances becomes the catalyst for new income streams. Their scheme against your relationships becomes the filter removing toxic people and making room for genuine connections. Their plot against your reputation becomes the platform elevating your authentic voice above false narratives. This reversal is the most frustrating mechanism for your enemies because they see their efforts not just failing but backfiring, not just stopping but reversing, not just blocked but transformed into the opposite of their intention. What should have hurt you helped you. What should have weakened you strengthened you. What should have destroyed you built you. And they cannot understand how their carefully crafted plan produced the exact opposite of its intended outcome. You've lived this. Things they did to harm you ended up benefiting you. Actions they took to curse you became your blessings. Schemes they executed to destroy you created opportunities for your growth. This isn't irony. This is heavenly reversal blocking their plan by transforming their weapon into your tool. Their attack into your advantage, their evil into your good. Heaven doesn't just stop plans. Sometimes heaven reverses plans so completely that enemies end up accomplishing the opposite of what they intended, achieving the reverse of what they desired, producing the contradiction of what they sought. Now let me show you what your enemies are experiencing right now as they try to comprehend how their plan failed so completely, so mysteriously, so inexplicably. First, they're experiencing cognitive dissonance. Their plan was good. They know it was good. Every element made sense. Every component was logical. Every piece fit together perfectly. Yet it failed. Completely. This creates internal conflict between what they know should have worked and what actually happened, between their expectation of success and their reality of failure, between their confidence in their plan and their confusion about its collapse. This cognitive dissonance is destabilizing them. They're questioning themselves, doubting their capabilities, wondering if they're not as smart as they thought, not as strategic as they believed, not as powerful as they assumed. This self-doubt is itself a form of divine judgment, a type of heavenly correction, a kind of supernatural consequence. Their confidence is being eroded not by you, but by their repeated mysterious failures, by their inexplicable defeats, by their confusing collapses of what should have been successful attacks. Second, they're experiencing paranoia. When plans fail mysteriously, people start seeing hidden enemies everywhere. They're suspicious of each other, wondering who sabotaged the plan. They're distrustful of their allies, questioning who's secretly working against them. They're fearful of unseen opposition, sensing that something beyond human agency is blocking them, but unable to identify what, unable to locate it, unable to confront it because it's not human. It's heavenly. This paranoia is fracturing their remaining unity. They're turning on each other, accusing, suspecting, dividing. Their alliance against you is being destroyed by their paranoia about each other, by their suspicion of betrayal from within, by their fear of opposition from somewhere they can't identify. This paranoia is itself heavenly intervention, divine blocking operating at psychological level, supernatural dismantling functioning through their own mental states turned against their coordination. Third, they're experiencing exhaustion. Every failed attempt drains energy. Every collapsed plan depletes resources. Every dismantled scheme consumes effort that produces no result. They're getting tired, worn down, burned out, while you remain energized, vital, strong. This imbalance is itself evidence of heavenly blocking. You're protected from the drain of their attacks. They're experiencing the full cost of attacking someone heaven protects, someone divine forces defend, someone supernatural powers shield. They're working harder than you are in this conflict. They're investing more effort. They're consuming more energy. Yet they're losing while you're winning, failing while you're succeeding, depleting while you're thriving. This shouldn't be possible if the fight were purely human. But it's not purely human. It's human versus heavenly. They're fighting human fight. Heaven is fighting divine fight on your behalf. And humans exhaust. Heaven doesn't. This exhaustion imbalance is itself proof of supernatural intervention, blocking their plans through simple attrition, wearing them down, burning them out, depleting them until they no longer have energy to continue attacking. Fourth, they're experiencing isolation. As their plans keep failing mysteriously, others are distancing themselves. People don't want to be associated with repeated failure, aligned with mysterious defeat, connected to inexplicable collapse. Their circle is shrinking, their support is withdrawing, their allies are departing. This isolation is removing their capacity to coordinate future plans, their ability to gather resources for new attacks, their power to recruit accomplices for additional schemes. Heaven is blocking their plans not just in present but also in future by isolating them, by removing their network, by dismantling their support system. They're being systematically separated from everyone who might help them mount another attack, isolated from anyone who could assist another scheme, cut off from all who might participate in another plot. This isolation is divine strategy, heavenly blocking that prevents not just current plans but future plans, not just present attacks but coming attacks, not just today's schemes but tomorrow's schemes. Fifth, they're experiencing fear, real, gripping, undeniable fear. Because repeated mysterious failure suggests they're fighting something beyond human power, opposing something beyond earthly authority, attacking something beyond mortal capacity to defeat. Even if they don't believe in divine intervention consciously, unconsciously they're recognizing they're facing forces they don't understand, powers they can't overcome, authorities they can't defeat. This fear is paralyzing some of them. They're withdrawing from the fight not out of mercy for you but out of terror for themselves. Not from compassion but from self-preservation, not from goodness but from fear of what's blocking their plans might do to those who keep trying to execute plans against someone heaven protects. This fear is itself heavenly weapon, divine tool for blocking not through direct confrontation but through psychological impact, through generating in enemies such fear that they stop attacking not because they want to, but because they're too afraid to continue. Let me tell you what you should understand about heaven's blocking of plans against you, because this understanding will transform how you walk through future attacks, how you respond to coming schemes, how you navigate ongoing plots. First, understand that heaven blocks proactively, not just reactively. Divine intervention doesn't wait for plans to fully execute before blocking. Heaven blocks at planning stage, at coordination stage, at early implementation stage. By the time you become aware of an attack, heaven has already been blocking it, dismantling it, neutralizing it. This means you're protected before you know you need protection, defended before you realize you're under attack, shielded before you're aware of danger. Heaven's blocking is anticipatory, preemptive, proactive. This should give you profound peace. You don't have to see every attack to be protected from every attack. You don't have to know every scheme to be defended from every scheme. You don't have to detect every plot to be shielded from every plot. Heaven sees before you see, knows before you know, acts before you need to act. Second, understand that heaven blocks comprehensively, not just partially. When divine intervention blocks a plan, it doesn't just stop one element. It dismantles the entire structure. It doesn't just neutralize one component. It corrupts the whole system. It doesn't just prevent one phase. It collapses all stages. Heaven's blocking is thorough, complete, total. When heaven blocks a plan against you, that plan doesn't just fail partially. It fails completely. It doesn't just succeed less. It doesn't succeed at all. This should eliminate your worry about plans against you almost succeeding, attacks against you nearly landing, schemes against you barely failing. When heaven blocks, failure is complete. When divine intervention activates, defeat is total. When supernatural protection engages, collapse is absolute. You don't have to fear that attacks will almost work. Heaven's blocking ensures they don't work at all, don't succeed even partially, don't accomplish even fractionally their intended purpose. Third, understand that heaven blocks mysteriously, not obviously. Divine intervention doesn't announce itself. Supernatural blocking doesn't advertise its presence. Heavenly dismantling doesn't reveal its mechanisms. Plans fail, but heaven doesn't explain how. Schemes collapse, but divine forces don't demonstrate why. Attacks abort, but supernatural powers don't show their methods. This mystery is intentional. This hiddenness is strategic. This concealment is purposeful. Heaven keeps its methods hidden from enemies so they can't adapt, can't adjust, can't modify their approach to account for divine blocking. If they understood how heaven blocks, they might find ways to work around it, to compensate for it, to overcome it. But they don't understand. They can't understand. They never will understand. Because heaven operates in dimensions they don't access, through mechanisms they don't perceive, by methods they don't comprehend. This permanent mystery keeps them permanently unable to develop effective strategies against someone heaven protects. Fourth, understand that heaven blocks consistently, not sporadically. Divine intervention isn't random. It's not luck. It's not sometimes. It's always. It's reliable. It's dependable. Every plan against you will be blocked. Every scheme against you will be dismantled. Every plot against you will be neutralized. Not most. All. Not usually. Always. Not probably. Certainly. Heaven's blocking is consistent, continuous, constant. This should eliminate your anxiety about future attacks. Yes, more attacks will come. Yes, more schemes will be plotted. Yes, more plans will be designed. But all will fail. All will be blocked. All will collapse. Not because you're powerful enough to stop them, but because heaven is powerful enough to block them. Not because you're smart enough to outwit them, but because divine wisdom is infinite enough to dismantle them. Not because you're protected by human authority, but because you're covered by heavenly authority that never fails, never weakens, never stops functioning to block plans against those it protects. Fifth, understand that heaven blocks purposefully, not randomly. Divine intervention isn't arbitrary, it's intentional. Every plan heaven blocks against you is a plan that would have derailed your destiny, delayed your purpose, destroyed your calling if it had succeeded. Heaven blocks plans that matter, attacks that threaten, schemes that endanger what you're meant to become, what you're called to accomplish, what you're destined to achieve. Heaven's blocking is selective in that it focuses on protecting what's essential, defending what's critical, shielding what's vital to your divine assignment. This should give you confidence in heaven's judgment about what needs blocking and what doesn't. Some small attacks get through, some minor inconveniences occur, some passing difficulties manifest. Heaven allows these because they're not dangerous to your destiny, not threatening to your purpose, not destructive to your calling. They might be uncomfortable, but they're not lethal. They might be annoying, but they're not fatal. They might be challenging, but they're not ending. Heaven blocks what would end you, what would destroy you, what would prevent you from fulfilling what you're meant to fulfill. Everything else might touch you temporarily, but nothing essential can be taken from you permanently. Now let me give you practical wisdom for cooperating with heaven's blocking of plans against you. Because while heaven blocks without requiring your cooperation, your alignment with divine protection enhances its effectiveness. Your awareness of supernatural blocking strengthens your peace. Your confidence in heavenly intervention deepens your rest. First, trust heaven's timing in exposing what you need to know about plots against you. You don't need to know every detail of every plan. You don't need to see every scheme. You don't need to detect every plot. Heaven will show you what you need to see when you need to see it. Sometimes heaven blocks without you ever knowing there was an attack. Other times heaven exposes so you can prepare, respond, adjust. Trust this variation. When you don't see attacks, trust they're being handled. When you do see attacks, trust you're being prepared. Don't demand to know everything. Don't insist on seeing every scheme. Don't require awareness of every plot. Rest in knowing heaven sees everything, knows everything, blocks everything that needs blocking whether you're aware of it or not. Second, maintain righteousness to preserve divine protection. Heaven blocks plans against those it protects. Stay protected by living righteously, walking uprightly, functioning with integrity. You're not perfect. You'll make mistakes. But maintain your heart toward God, your intention toward righteousness, your commitment toward divine alignment. This righteousness maintains your covering, preserves your protection, sustains your defense. When you're under divine protection, heaven blocks plans against you. When you step out of divine protection through persistent, unrepented sin, heaven's blocking may be withdrawn, allowing consequences that would otherwise be prevented. Third, release vengeance to heaven. Don't try to get back at those who plotted against you. Don't attempt to punish those who schemed against you. Don't work to destroy those who planned against you. Heaven blocks their plans. Let heaven also handle their consequences. Vengeance is God's, not yours. Justice is heaven's responsibility, not your burden. Correction is divine work, not human duty. When you release vengeance to heaven, you free yourself from carrying anger, bitterness, resentment that only harms you, only drains you, only depletes you while accomplishing nothing productive against your enemies anyway. Fourth, use testimony of blocked plans to encourage others. Tell others about plans against you that mysteriously failed. Share about schemes against you that inexplicably collapsed. Testify about plots against you that confusingly fell apart. Your testimony builds faith in others that they too are protected, they too are defended, They too are shielded by heaven that blocks plans against the chosen. Your story becomes medicine for their fear, light for their darkness, strength for their weakness. When they hear how heaven blocked plans against you, faith rises that heaven will block plans against them too. Fifth, stay focused on your purpose while heaven handles your enemies. Don't become obsessed with who's plotting against you. Don't spend your energy monitoring who's scheming against you. Don't waste your time tracking who's planning against you. Heaven blocks their plans, you fulfill your purpose. Heaven fights your battles, you walk your destiny. Heaven protects your life, you complete your calling. Separation of duties, heaven handles enemies, you handle assignment. Heaven deals with attacks, you deal with purpose. Heaven blocks plans against you, you execute plans for you. So chosen one, heaven blocked their plan. Completely, mysteriously, permanently. They coordinated. Heaven confused. They schemed. Heaven exposed. They attacked. Heaven redirected. They timed perfectly. Heaven delayed. They intended evil. Heaven reversed to good. Their plan failed. They still don't know how. They never will know how. Because heaven doesn't explain its methods to those who attack its chosen. Doesn't reveal its mechanisms to those who scheme against its protected, doesn't disclose its strategies to those who plot against its anointed. Walk in this confidence, live in this security, operate in this peace. You're protected by forces that block plans in ways your enemies cannot understand, cannot predict, cannot overcome. Their best strategies fail mysteriously. Their perfect timing misses inexplicably. Their coordinated attacks collapse confusingly. Not because you're strong enough to stop them, because heaven is powerful enough to block them. Not because you're smart enough to outwit them, because divine wisdom is infinite enough to dismantle them. Not because you're defended by human authority, because you're protected by heavenly authority. They had a plan. Heaven blocked it. They still don't know how. This is your reality. This is your protection. This is your testimony. Heaven blocked their plan, and they still don't know how. They never will. Because divine methods are mysteries to human minds, supernatural mechanisms are hidden from earthly understanding. Heavenly strategies are concealed from mortal comprehension. You're protected by mysteries they cannot solve, defended by powers they cannot perceive, shielded by authorities they cannot comprehend. Heaven blocked their plan, and they still don't know how. This is who you are. This is what you carry. This is how you're defended, protected by heaven, blocked by divine intervention, shielded by supernatural forces, forever, always, continuously. Every plan, every scheme, every plot, blocked by heaven. They still don't know how. They never will. And that's exactly how heaven designed it. Mystery preserving protection, confusion maintaining defense, bewilderment sustaining shield, forever.